Whether you're a senior trying to decide between a couple of schools that you've been accepted to, or you're a junior who's just beginning to look at colleges, a crucial part of your college exploration process and decision-making process is going to be visiting campuses. This is the one surefire way to see if a school really is a good fit for you and whether you're going to be happy there for the next few years. Hi, I'm Nick of Dawes Academic Consulting, and I'm an independent college consultant, and I help families navigate the college admissions process. And today I wanted to talk specifically about the campus visit. Some things to do, some things not to do, how to plan specifically today. Because when you go to visit a college, it's not just about going on the tour, listening to the information, and then leaving and spending the rest of your time doing whatever else, right? If you want to make the most of your time on a campus, just like any vacation or any trip that you go on, you have to plan first. If you don't plan, then you're going to end up asking some really basic questions at the school, things that you could find out by just looking at the website. So rather than waste our questions and our time on the tour asking questions that we can get answers to online, let's look online first. Anytime you're going to think about visiting a college, you should do some research before you ever schedule a tour. You want to make sure that when you're planning on going is a time when classes are going to be in session, first and foremost. Okay, so not every school has spring break at the same time. Most colleges don't have a February break. So if you're at a high school that has a February break, that can be a really good time to go visit colleges. Even if the weather's kind of crummy and all the trees are bare, it can still be a good time to go visit because at least the campus will be kind of alive. The other thing to keep in mind about scheduling is it's going to be on a Monday through Friday. Very rarely will colleges do tours on weekends. Sometimes they'll do a special like weekend event or a weekend fly-in or a parents' weekend or a prospective student weekend, but most of the everyday ordinary tours are Monday through Friday. These are facilitated and led by students and by admissions people, and they're going to be more available on the weekdays than they are on the weekends. Same thing with national holidays and finals week. And sometimes even the week before finals, it's going to be harder to find tours because the students are preparing for exams. It's not fair to make them do tours and things like that when they're preparing to try and ace their classes. So keep in mind that when you go to look at tour dates, those are some of the restrictions that you're going to be dealing with. If you're going to go tour on spring break, it's really important that you make sure that your spring break doesn't align with their spring break. You might not be able to find any tours at all, or if you are able to find some tours, the campus is going to be more empty than usual. So you're going to walk around and feel like, oh, it's kind of quiet, or oh, there's not a lot of people, which might be a plus or it might be a minus, but that's not an accurate representation of what the campus is like when classes are in session. So look at their academic calendar and make sure that classes are in session, you're not going during a break, and that you are prepared to be able to go on a weekday and tour the campus. And that's step number one. Number two, keep in mind most campus tours start somewhere between 9 and 11 o'clock. They're going to involve an information session, sometimes a student panel where they'll talk about their experiences as students and allow parents and prospective students to ask questions. And then there will be a tour. Usually the tour is 60 minutes, sometimes it's 90 minutes. So you should be prepared to spend probably about 2 hours on the formal tour and information session piece between getting to the facility a little early, doing the 30-minute session, the 30-minute info session or student presentation, and then the hour tour, right? You can expect to spend about 2 hours. But that's not all the time that you're going to spend there. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So once you've looked at the academic calendar and you've made sure that it's a good time for you to tour this college and you've scheduled your tour, then it's time to do some research. And I actually had a pretty astute student mention that it's kind of like shopping. And if you've ever sat and you've compared like two phones or two laptops and you've been looking at the cost and the features and, oh, this one has this resolution screen, this one has this size, but this one has more RAM or more whatever, then you have the same skills that you're going to use when you're comparing colleges. And so it really is kind of like shopping. And so you're going to be looking at some of the features and offerings of a particular college to make sure that you understand the basics before you go and visit, because a visit is really a good time for you to ask specific questions about the experience on campus to make sure that it's going to be a good match for you. Asking these basic questions really is a waste of your time, especially if you're traveling really far to go visit these schools, or you're going to visit a number of schools all in like a week or something. So you're going to want to look at the admit rate of the university, or admit rates if there's more than one. Say they admit by major. Try to find information about your major, especially if it's something competitive like engineering, computer science, business, nursing, right? Number two, you're going to want to look at the total undergraduate population, get a sense for how big the school is. At a research university, understand that undergrads are only a fraction of the population, but they're a sizable fraction. So if it says it's 5,000 students and they have grad students also, you could be talking about a school that's 7 or 8,000 people total, plus faculty and staff. Look at the EA, ED, and RD policies. Do they have ED1? Do they have ED2? Do they have EA? Do they have EA2? Do they have rolling admission? Look at those things, right? You don't want to have to ask those questions. You can find that out on the admissions page. Look at their SAT and ACT policy, speaking of the admissions page. Are they test optional, test expected, test required, whatever? What are the middle 50% of scores that students are reporting for the SAT or the ACT? Do they require any other things? Do they look at AP scores? All of that stuff. Similarly, look at the average GPA of the enrolled freshmen from last year, and look at any other GPA related data that you can find. Or is the average student like a 3.8? Are they at 3.6? Are they at 3.2? Where do they fall? And that'll give you a sense of the academic aptitude of the students who are enrolling, right? You'll also want to look at religious affiliation. Is this an independent school? Is this a religiously affiliated school? Are they Catholic? Are they Unitarian? Are they Congregationalist? Are they nothing? Find that out, because that might inform some of the questions that you would want to ask when you visit the campus. You also want to look at popular majors. Nothing worse than going to a school and saying, "Oh, is this major popular?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's our number one major." And you're like, "Oh." Again, could have found that out on the internet very easily. Number 8, you'll want to look at the financial aid policies if financial aid is something that's going to be important to you. And lastly, if athletics are important to you, you're going to want to look at the sports that they have. Are they NCAA Division 3, Division 2, Division 1? Are they NAIA or something else? What sports do they have? Do they have the sports that matter to you? Some kids really want a school with a good football program. Other kids are fine with basketball. Other kids don't care. Some people want rowing or archery or golf. And so just take a look and see what's available at your campus if athletics matter to you. And knowing all of these things about the school not only will prevent you from asking these sort of surface level questions when you visit the campus, but they might inform some of the deeper questions that you're going to ask. If you see that a school is religiously affiliated, that might be a great opportunity to say, like, how does the religious affiliation of the school affect your day-to-day life as a student? Or does it? Does it affect the graduation requirements? Are you taking a bunch of religion classes? How are the religion classes? What choices did you have? Do you feel okay with it? Has it been fun, or does it feel kind of preachy? Or, given that this major is popular, how easy is it to transfer into this major if you start with something else and change your mind later? This is really important for those students who are kind of stuck between two choices and they're not sure which way they want to go, and they want the flexibility to be able to switch their major into something else later. For a lot of students, this isn't a problem, but if one of your options that you're considering is computer science, it could be a problem at the school that you're looking at. So get those facts out of the way so that you can know the basics and prepare good questions before you ever set foot on an airplane or get in a car and get on the road towards a school. You want to have all of that information ready, have it accessible and handy, either in a notebook, on your phone, on a tablet, whatever it is you're using to sort of keep track of your notes. Have all of those statistics handy when you go to the tour and presentation, along with some of your questions. Some other common questions that students might ask or parents might ask include, like, how much time are students spending studying each week, or volunteering each week if it's a Jesuit school or something that really emphasizes community involvement? Are students still doing a lot of extracurriculars, right? Are faculty members like accessible and supportive with students? Do they give them a lot of time and a lot of mentorship? Are students satisfied with their overall experience at this college, their experience within the major, their experience with the mentorship, with the professors, with the whatever thing you want to ask them about? Are students satisfied with that aspect of the college experience? How many students participate in research with faculty? How many students participate in internships and co-ops, other experiential learning opportunities? These are all things that you can ask when you're on the tour with a student, or when you're in the student panel session. You can ask, like, do many of your friends participate in internships or research experience? Or in a particular major, do students do that? Engineering is infamous for not having room in their schedule for like study abroad. So is it possible at this school for an engineering student to study abroad and still graduate on time? If study abroad is important to you, but you're an engineering kid, that's a question that you're going to want to have answered, because at a lot of schools, the answer is going to be no. You're going to have to take summer classes to make up for it, or do your study abroad over the summer instead of during the school year, right? You're gonna have to make those sorts of accommodations and sacrifices in order to graduate on time, or just not graduate on time and just know that going in. So this is all prep work that you're gonna do before you ever go to campus, before you travel, before you go anywhere or do anything. You're gonna research the calendar, make sure that the dates you were looking at are good times to tour, schedule your tour, and then start doing that research. Shop the college and get all those sort of base level statistics so that you can begin crafting questions. And more questions will come up as you go on the tour and as you listen to the info session, as you hear the student panel speak. More questions will come up, but they will at least be targeted questions that are relevant to whatever conversation is being had at the event. But if you come with some questions prepared, that'll be really good to make sure that you have like a baseline of things that you want to ask and information you want to get from the college while you're visiting. So then, going on the tour, you're going to want to show up to the campus at least 30 minutes early. Okay, if the tour starts at 9 or the info session starts at 9, you want to try to get there by 8:30, because you're going to have to find either the admissions office or the welcome center if the school has a welcome center, because that's probably where the info session is going to be held. And if you show up at the edge of campus right at 9, you're 10 minutes late to the, maybe even 15 minutes late, depending on the size of the campus and whether you have to walk uphill, find parking if you're driving a car, right? There are all these factors that you have to consider. Try to show up at least half an hour early so that you have time to park or walk to whatever building you're walking to. And then you're going to get there, settle in, they're going to do their presentation, you're going to do the student panel. When you're in the information session, pay attention to what the school chooses to highlight, what new programs they're offering, what programs or experiences they really want to emphasize and sell about themselves. This is going to tell you not only what's sort of new and shiny or impressive at the school, because they're not going to tell you about something that they're not proud of. And two, it's going to show you a little bit about how is the school presenting itself? How does the school position itself? How does the school think about itself as a college? What's the sort of perception that they are trying to broadcast to others about themselves? What do they care about? What are they good at? The other thing you want to pay attention to are the FAFSA policies, mainly because they might change. Admissions policies and FAFSA policies will be part of the information session. They'll say, and here are our admissions dates and deadlines. Here's our FAFSA deadline and all that sort of basic stuff that you already looked up online. So that part you don't have to worry about so much. But what you will want to pay attention to are any changes, because during the info session, they might mention if they have changed or if they're considering changing anything about that process right in the moment. And unfortunately, over the last several years, there have been a lot of changes. FAFSA's gone through a 2-year reworking that is hopefully done, knock on wood. And right now, the government is going through some things. And so the future of FAFSA and the future of financial aid is a bit of a question. So pay attention to that information and those updates when you go to the info session. The general information that they're going to give you, you can largely just sort of like, yes, I already know this, or I looked this up already. And then when you leave the info session, leave the student panel, and you go out on the tour, there are some things that I suggest that you pay attention to, and there are going to be some things that I suggest you are okay to ignore, or you should try to kind of push back in your mind a little bit. The things I want you to pay attention to are the dorm situation, and not just, the room itself or the furniture. And I'll talk more about the furniture in a minute, but look at the common spaces. Look at the facility itself. If you're able to see a bathroom, look at the bathroom. Sometimes you can't if they're communal bathrooms at the end of the hall. There might be students using them and they don't want like 15 people just sort of peeking their heads in. But if it's a bathroom inside like a model unit or something, take a look and see how it looks. It's probably going to be pretty basic, but you want to know what you're getting into. Most of the dorm facilities at colleges are all pretty standard and pretty similar. So unless the school has recently built a new dormitory or something like that, don't expect to be wowed. Look at the common areas, look at the shared spaces and see, like, does it look lively? Is it decorated? Do students hang out there? Are you going to find like a couple students sitting in the common space studying or hanging out cooking? Do they have facilities for you to cook if you want to cook? Or do you have to go eat in the dining hall? That kind of stuff. Speaking of the dining hall, pay attention to the dining hall. See what foods are available in the dining hall. Look at the menu, see what's on offer. Look around at the students, see, like, do they seem happy, or are they like, oh my God, porridge again? Whatever is going on there. Also, when you're walking around campus, look around at other food options. A lot of schools will have private businesses on campus selling food to students. So you might find Subway, you might find Chipotle, you might find something else, right? See what food is available, because you are going to be eating there for years. And if you're rushed on your way to class and you want to grab like a parfait or something, you need to know what's available. Or if you're like, I've got an hour between these two classes, I need to study and I need to eat, let me grab something on campus super quick. Not only do you need to know where to go, but you need to know if you're going to like your options, right? You might not have time to go to the dining hall and grab a whole meal, but you're going to go to the market and grab a quick sandwich or something. So take a look at those. Pay attention to the classrooms. Not only like are they new or or older, but how big are they? How many students are in there? How are those students learning? Is it lecture? Is it discussion? Is it some sort of project? What's going on in the classrooms as you explore and as you go through on the tour? Pay attention to the study spaces and common areas, and not just in the library. Sometimes you'll find study spaces in the student union, sometimes you'll find them in the dining area, and then of course the library as well. But look at students and see where they're studying and where they're working. Does it seem comfortable? Does it seem convenient? Is there enough space for students, or are kids like perched on the ground with books in their lap trying to work because there's no room for tables and things like that? Also pay attention to the student body. Look around, and you can look at like the demographics of students. You can sort of look and say, oh yeah, there's a lot of diversity here, or there's a lot of whatever here. But you can also look and see, like, are they happy in general? Do they seem stressed? Or they're like head down running to class? Or are they light and having fun? Are they having too much fun? Mom and dad might think, right? Look at the student body as you're on the tour and see, how do people feel? What's the general vibe on campus like? And then finally, academic and career supports. Pay attention when they talk about the career center, pay attention when they talk about the tutoring center or the writing center. You might want to use those facilities and resources, especially that career center. And so listen to that stuff, and you can even ask the tour guide about their experience with those options, or if they have friends who have used those options and how did they like it, or what was it like, right? Some things to not pay attention to: the weather. Everywhere is going to have a dreary day. Even a place that's known for sunshine like San Diego, the last 3 times I've been in San Diego, it's been raining every single time I've gone. If you were to judge based on the 3 last times I went to San Diego, you would think that it was Seattle. It's gray, overcast, cold, rainy. Everywhere's going to have dreary days. Try not to let like blah weather make you think the school itself is blah. All right. Do your best to kind of put that out of your mind and say, well, it's kind of a whatever day. It's what I get for visiting in February. But if this is as bad as the weather's going to be, that's something to know. To just say like, oh, this is the school in February. This is as bad as it gets. Can you deal with that? The other thing to kind of ignore is the architecture. I talk about this all the time. Like, unless you're an architecture major, the buildings aren't teaching you stuff. The learning happens inside the building. And when you're inside the building, you don't see the outside of the building. It is important that we feel good about the campus space and that we like the vibe and we like the appearance. You know, if you're on a campus that looks like a prison, maybe that's not your vibe, but in general, try not to be overly wowed by the environment. These colleges spend tens of millions of dollars on landscaping and architecture and design. It better wow somebody. If it doesn't wow anybody, then that's a huge problem. That's millions of dollars poorly spent. It's part of their marketing, it's part of the personality that they're trying to project about the institution. Yes, it's okay to look around and say, oh, I feel like this is so collegey. I really like it. But don't let that be a primary consideration for whether you are a good fit for a school or not. Because at a lot of the schools, if you just looked at the architecture and the landscaping, you'd probably say, "Oh wow, they're all really pretty," or mostly really pretty. I have seen some campuses that I don't agree with, but that's my personal taste, right? The other thing to ignore is the health and rec center. Colleges like to spend a lot of money on updating the rec center. They'll add climbing walls, some sort of like cool diving facilities. Sometimes I've seen lazy rivers and that sort of stuff. They'll have all updated machines and oh, we do yoga classes and we do spinning classes and we do like cycling, like Peloton style classes and all this sort of stuff. Right? So they're going to update it and they're going to show it to you. And that's part of the marketing of the school. But you have to ask yourself, am I realistically going to use these facilities? And if the answer is no, then it doesn't matter. Or if you might use these facilities, you might need to ask yourself, like, if I went to a school with a less cool rec center, could I get all of these same amenities at like an Anytime Fitness or a 24-hour fitness or an LA Fitness for not $80,000 a year? And the answer is probably going to be yes. So try not to be overly wowed by the rec center. You have to think about, am I realistically going to use this? Not a, oh man, I've always wanted to get healthier and I've wanted to do this. It would be great to do it here. Because that might not happen, right? This is why people make New Year's resolutions every January and they fall off the wagon by February, right? So don't pie in the sky it. Think about, do I use these things? Will I use these things? For sure, yes or no. If yes, pay attention. If no, again, try not to be overly wowed by it. And then lastly is the dorm furniture. After you visit 2 or 3 schools, you'll start to notice that like the dorm furniture maybe doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks 80% similar. It's the same kind of light brown wood. It's a simple desk. It's a simple bookcase or dresser. It's a simple closet or cupboard for you to hang things in. It's all going to be pretty similar. It's all going to be pretty standard. Extra long twin bed just in case you're 6'5", right? With like a blue mattress that has like a athletic mat kind of exterior. I swear there's probably some sort of like college IKEA outlet somewhere that these colleges just buy furniture in bulk to populate their dorms. So don't let the dorm furniture turn you off to a school, because when you go and visit like 4 other schools, you'll find the dorm furniture is largely similar. No one's giving you designer furniture in a college dorm. That's just not how they're going to spend their money. All right. So keep that in mind. And as you're going around the campus, you have the captive attention of a current student, probably a junior or senior. I hope. I have had tours with freshmen, and they're not always the most helpful because they themselves are learning about the school still. But if you have a junior or a senior, they're going to know a lot about what it's like to be a student there. So this is where you want to ask your questions, because you're not going to have the captive attention of an active student in that same way again. So find out everything you can about what it's like being a student there. How do they like their major? How do they like their classes? What majors do their friends have? Are any of their friends in your major? And that sort of stuff. And then mine them for information. Don't be obnoxious with your questions. Don't ask so many questions that they can't say other stuff. But when they open up the room for questions or the floor for questions, then that's when you can ask a couple. and then you move on to the next thing. And as you're walking, even as you're walking from place to place, you can also ask them questions. And that's a great spot where they're not necessarily sharing information about the university. They're walking you to your next destination. And if you're walking next to them or near them, you can ask some questions as well. And that gives them something to say and talk about as they go to the next destination on the tour. So that can be really helpful for them too. When you go on a college tour, don't just show up to the tour and go and say, okay, I'm here. What school is this again? Do your research. Prepare ahead of time. Learn those basic fundamentals about the school, the statistics, the things you can find out online, so that you're not asking those simple questions at the event. Prepare some questions ahead of time, some things that you really want to know about. And some of the things that you might learn online will prompt you to have questions. And I'm sure you'll come up with more questions when you're on the tour. When you go on the tour, do take notes, but also try not to let these one-off experiences color your opinion of the school. That includes the weather, but that also can include, like, maybe your tour guide's a freshman, or maybe your tour guide's having a bad day, and so they're not super, like, fun or enthusiastic. Most of these colleges have thousands of students on campus. So don't let one student sort of like color your whole opinion of the campus. Same if you're talking to a random student on campus. Like if they have a bad attitude, maybe they're just having a bad day. Don't let one experience or one interaction affect your view of the entire university. Of course, if you have 5 or 6 bad interactions, maybe that says something about the school. But one, that's more on that person. It's not necessarily on the university as a whole. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Same with, like I said, the weather and these other things as well. So focus on the things that are going to measurably impact your quality of life as a student, or the safety of the school if you're a parent, and accessibility of the school if you're a parent. So think about the career center, the advising, think about the classes and the professors and the opportunities available on campus or off campus with the internships and the partnerships that the university has with the local community and all of these sorts of things, right? Look at the students, sit on a bench and listen to students talk. Do they sound like people that you could be happy hanging out with? Are they themselves happy? Because if the students are happy, then they must like being there and they must feel comfortable and they must feel like they're learning. So they're satisfied with their experience. If the students are all stressed out, then maybe it's going to be a stressful place to be. Maybe the academic pressure is really high. Maybe the extracurricular pressure is really high, or both. Attention to those things that are going to have a measurable impact on the quality of your experience there. And that might include how pretty the campus is, but that is probably not the number one or even the number two thing that's going to impact whether you're happy there. It's going to be the people, it's going to be the opportunities, it's going to be the classes, it's going to be the food, it's going to be the things that you interact with every single day and that you notice every single day that are going to affect whether the college is a good fit for you or not. And I hope that helps as you start to prepare to visit your own colleges. Good luck. So, if that video helped you, then please help me by liking, sharing, and subscribing or following on whatever social media platform you prefer. Doing so really helps allow me to do what I like to do, which is help students and families manage the college application process. And if you're looking for more targeted support yourself, there's a link in the description that'll allow you to book a consultation with me, and we'll see how I can help. It's free. Anyway, thanks again for watching.